We continue now at the top of Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph and Mesechet Kesuvos. This is Kesuvos Daf 21a. The Gemara in the previous summit had a machlokas in the Mishnah between Rebbe and the Chachamim. Rebbe said that when it comes to the signatures on a star, you need to have two witnesses on each signature. It's not enough for the person just to testify that this is his signature. But the Chachamim say that's not the case. The Chachamim say it's enough if each witness testifies that that is his signature. And the Gemara now says, according to Rebbe, it comes out that al ksav yodon heim meidim, that what they're really testifying about is on their signatures. L'divrei Chachamim, but according to the Chachamim, al moneh shebishtar heim meidim. They're really testifying not on their signatures, but on the $100 or on the 100 moneh that is mentioned in the star, meaning to say they're testifying on the case, not on the signatures. And Rashi over here continues, al ksav yodon hein boin lahoyd. When they're coming to testify, they're testifying on their signatures. K'shemekaymen hashtar bezin, when they certify the star in bezin, lafikach tzarich shnayim al kol ksav uchsav. That's why you need two witnesses on every single signature. But l'divrei Chachamim al moneh shebishtar hein meidim. According to the Chachamim, they're testifying on the 100. Again, it's talking about the 100 zuz that are in the star. That's what they're testifying on. Anachnu ra'inu hamilva. We saw the loan. V'chasamnu, when we signed. Hilkach b'trei sagi. Therefore, it's enough if you just have two of them, meaning total, one on each signature. On each signature. You don't need each one to testify on his friend, because again, the testimony isn't really on the signature. The testimony is really on the moneh shebishtar. And the Gemara says, Pshita, isn't that obvious? And the Gemara says, it's not so obvious. Because what might you have thought? It could be that according to Rebbe, there was really a doubt over here what they're testifying on. Are they testifying on their signature? Or are they testifying on the moneh in the star? And therefore, Rebbe was simply strict because he wasn't sure what they're testifying on. Rashi over here says, are we testifying again on the signatures? Maybe it's just because of a shema. Since maybe they're testifying on the signatures, so matzrich trey l'chol ksav uksav. That's why he requires two for every single signature. Maybe it's not obvious to Rebbe what the case is, and that's why this is a chiddush. We're saying no. According to Rebbe, it is obvious that al ksav yodon heim meidim. And the Gemara continues, v'nafkamina, and it makes a difference whether Rebbe is svukei mesafkale, whether Rebbe is in doubt, or whether Rebbe is sure that they're testifying al ksav yodon in the following situation. Heichad demischad minayu. Let's say you have a situation where one of the two witnesses that are signed on the star dies. So liboy shnayim menashuk lahoyd olav. So then you might require two people from the marketplace from the outside to testify on the signature. Dimkein konafik nechiriva dimamona puma dechad sada. Because what could end up happening otherwise is you're going to end up having 3/4 of the money being determined by the testimony of just one witness. Rashi over here explains. Here's the difference between whether Rebbe is mesupik or whether he knows for sure. The following case can make a nafkamina. Let's say you have two people that are signed on a star, and then one of them dies. So what you're going to need now is two people from the marketplace to testify on the star. And it will not be effective to have this living witness testify on his signature and on his friend's signature. And then to have just one additional person come and testify on both of them, that will not work. Why? Because it could be the other way around is true. It could be according to Rebbe, if Rebbe is indeed misupik, it could be that according to Rebbe, they're testifying on the moneh shebishtar. They're not testifying on the signatures. And so therefore, if it's just going to be the living witness testifying on both signatures, and then also somebody else testifying on both, so when this guy says this is my signature, nafik palga dimamona apume. So if we're really saying al moneh shebishtar, that's already 50% he's now testified on. 50% of the money is based on his word. And the fact that we added a guy on his own signature, lo mala v'lo morid, that doesn't make any difference. They know tzarich lo, because that guy's really not needed if in fact it's true that he's testifying on moneh shebishtar. Now when he goes ahead and joins together with that guy from the marketplace, to testify about the signature of the person, of the witness that died, so that's another 1/4 of the money that's based on his word. It would come out that if they're testifying on the moneh shebishtar, 3/4 of that amount is being testified by one witness. ba'inan, and we require when we have two witnesses, chatzi davar al piv shel zeh, chatzi davar al piv shel zeh. It has to be 50% by this witness and 50% by that witness. So here you have a situation where if it's almana shebishtar heim me'idim, we actually end up having to be more strict in that situation. Let's say one of the edim dies. Hilkach, therefore, again, if one of the edim dies and we hold almana shebishtar, so hilkach ni boy trey, therefore we're actually going to require two to come from outside to testify. The cave and the sveika, because since we're in doubt, nezel hachal l'chumra v'achal l'chumra, we have to be strict in every direction. Heichad d'shneim kayamim, where they're both alive, as linan l'chumra, we have to be strict and say v'yamrin al ksav yodan heim meidin. We have to assume that they're testifying on the signatures. Uve'inan train al kol ksav u'ksav, and we're going to need two witnesses on every signature. V'heichad d'mizchad minayon, if one of the two witnesses die, so be'inan train menashuk, we're going to need to bring in two people from the outside. Sheyoid o echad al ksav yad hameis v'echad mein yod al ksav yad hameis. That way you have two from the outside testifying about the signature of the one who died. V'hachai, in other words, one of them is testifying on the ksav of the one who died, and one of them actually has to testify on the ksav of the one who died and the ksav of the one who's still alive. Now, had we known the other way around, had we known that they're testifying on the signatures, we'd only need one person from the marketplace. That person would just testify on both signatures. And the living person could testify on both signatures, and that would be fine if they're just doing that. If they're testifying on the signatures, you don't have a situation of 3/4 going on by one person. Because according to that, he would require the person from the outside on his signature. But now that we're not sure, and we're saying that maybe they're testifying on the actual case itself, on the Mona Shabishtar, and he himself alone is believed on his signature. If he doesn't need anyone else, so then that would already start being a problem. If he testifies on his signature and the other one, again, he's doing 3/4. We need him to testify on the signature of the dead witness. So nafki tlosa rive apume, 3/4 is going just by him. If you don't have two people from the outside, that way this guy doesn't need to come along and testify in the signature of the one who died. In any case, so what we're teaching us is that no, what we're learning out over here is that Rebbe is certain he's not misupik. It's sufficient to have just one come from the outside and testify. And both of them can testify in both signatures. In other words, the witness that's alive will testify in both signatures, and the person from the outside will testify in both signatures. That's why it is a chiddush over here to say, again, that Rebbe is certain that they're testifying on the signatures. And so again, the Gemara continues, as Rashi said, v'hachal l'chumra, v'hachal l'chumra. You might think that we're always going strict in both directions. Maybe, again, Rebbe is not sure if they're testifying on the signatures or not. So kamash malon, so that's what it's coming to teach us. The Rebbe mifshat pshitolei, to Rebbe it is obvious that the testimony is on the signatures, bein l'kula, bein l'chumra, whether that results in a leniency or whether that results in a stringency. The Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, because Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Shnayim hachasumin al ashtar. If you have two people signed on a shtar, umeis echad mehen, and then one of them dies, so tzrichen shnayim min hashuk l'hoyed olav. You're going to need to bring in two people from the outside to testify. Again, that's according to the Chachamim, because they hold they're testifying on the Mona Shebishtar, and Bazu Rebbe L'Kula v'Rabbanan L'Chumra, and in this regard, Rebbe is actually more lenient, and the Rabbanan are more strict, because again, like Rashi said, according to Rebbe, you're only going to need to bring one person in from the outside to testify, because according to Rebbe, you're testifying not on the Mona Shebishtar, but on the signatures. And the Gemara continues, V'ileka trei alachad. Now, according to the Rabbanan, let's say one of the witnesses dies, and you don't have two people from the outside, you only have one person from the outside, so what exactly are you supposed to do? So what do you do? And so the Gemara says, Amar Abaya says, we have the following solution. Lichtov chasimas yodei achaspa. What he can do is, he can write his signature on a shard, v'shadi lei bebeidina, and throw it into the bezdin, umechazki lei beidina, and then what can happen is that the bezdin can certify his signature, that way he's not certifying his signature. V'lo tzarich ihu lasudei achasimas yodei, he's not needed to testify in his signature. V'yazal ihu v'hai umesadia idach, and then him and the other person that they found, they can testify on the other signature, and in that case it will actually be sufficient, because he's testifying on the other signature with somebody else, and in terms of his signature, Bezdin is verifying that independently. And the Gemara continues, V'davka chasba, but he should be careful to only write his signature on a shard. Avala megilta lo, but to write it on a scroll, no, that's a bad idea. Why? Dilma mishkach lo inish de lo mali, because maybe somebody who's not that good of a person is going to find this scroll, and the signature is going to be on it. V'chasavi love my debayin, and he'll write whatever he wants. He'll make it look like a document of admission by this guy, because this guy's signature is on here, and he can write, so-and-so admits that he owes such and such. Utnana, we learned in the Mishnah that would actually be effective. It says in the Mishnah, Hotzi olav ksav yado shuchayev lo. If somebody takes out his own handwriting, his own signature that he's chayev something to him, gova min nechasim b'nei chorin. He's actually allowed to collect from that person as long as it's not nechasim mishubadim, as long as it is nechasim b'nei chorin. Again, that's regular property that the person owns, as opposed to nechasim that are mishubadim. That refers to property that there's a lien on. So in such a case of ksav yado, you can collect only from nechasim b'nei chorin, but you can still collect, and that's why it's important to be careful not to put a signature on a scroll. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says the name of Shmuel, halacha kedivrei chachamim. The halacha is like the chachamim, that again they're testifying almona shebishtar. And the Gemara says, Pshita, isn't that obvious? Yachid v'ravim halacha k'ravim. If you have a machlokas between an individual and a majority, of course we pass them like the majority. And so the Gemara says, no, mahu detema, what might you have thought? Halacha k'revi mechaveiro v'afilu mechaveirov. Maybe you would think the halacha is not only like Rebbe against one other person from his friend, but even from his friends, even if he's against the majority. Maybe we pass him like Rebbe, Kamash Malan. That's what it's coming to teach us over here. Shmuel saying, no, the halacha is like the chachamim. And Rashi over here says, Minachasim b'nei chorin. Again, if you have somebody's own signatures testifying that he owes something, so you can collect from him only from the chasim b'nei chorin, but not from property that, let's say, he sold and now there's a lien on it. You can't collect from the chasim mishubadim, like we said. And what's the reason? The less like kala l'davar sheino asib edim. Because if you wrote a star without edim, if it's just his own signature, so then it's not publicized, and then you can't really have a lien on property, because the people who are buying this property, they're not aware that there's a lien, and so therefore there is not a lien. That's why you can only collect from the chasim b'nei chorin. And the Gemara continues at the Tudat, Siman Noch Nod Chad. Again, this is an mnemonic just to remember the next Gemara. And the Gemara says, Amar le Rav Chinana bar Chia Rav Yehuda. Rav Chinana bar Chia says to Rav Yehuda, V'amri lo Rav Huna bar Yehuda lo Rav Yehuda. Some have the version that it's Rav Huna bar Yehuda who says to Rav Yehuda. V'amri lo Rav Chia bar Yehuda lo Rav Yehuda. And some people say it's Rav Chia bar Yehuda to Rav Yehuda. They ask the following question: Umi Amar Shmuel Hachi. Does Shmuel really say that the halacha follows the Chachamim in our Mishnah? But there was a certain document that came out of the Bezdin of Shmuel, and it said as follows: From the fact that Rav Anan bar Chia came and testified on his signature and the other signature, Umanu Rav Chanan bar Rabba. And what's the other signature? Whose was it? It was Rav Chanan bar Rabba's. Rav Chanan bar Rabba and from the fact that Rav Chanan bar Rabba came along and testified on his signature and also the other signature, Umanu Rav Anan bar Chia, and whose signature was that? It was Rav Anan bar Chia. So therefore we certified this shtar properly. So you see that this Bezdin of Shmuel required two witnesses on each signature, and that seems to be like Rebbe's opinion and not like the Chachamim. So is it really true that Shmuel holds like the Chachamim? And so he said back, Amar Le, he said back to him, Ahu shtar de yasmi havin. No, in that case, it happens to be, it was a shtar of orphans. V'chosh Shmuel lebezdin toen, and Shmuel was afraid maybe a bezdin would make a mistake. V'zavar Shmuel, and Shmuel thought, Dilma ika desfira le, maybe there's someone out there that holds halacha kerebi mechavero, that the halacha is like Rebbe from his friend when he's arguing with one person. V'lo mechavero, and in general when he's arguing with many people, the halacha is not like Rebbe. Uvaha afilu mechavero, but maybe in this particular dispute, the halacha is like Rebbe even over the majority. Maybe there's some bezdin that thinks that. So therefore Shmuel thought to himself, Avid Ravcha, I'm going to paskin and make this, certify this in a way where everyone's going to agree. In that way, the Yisomim will never lose out. So he went beyond the letter of the law, but again, in reality, Shmuel paskins like the Chachamim. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Eid v'dayon mitzdarfen. If you have a witness and a judge, they can join together. Rashi over here explains, Eid v'dayon shtar shekasabo henpik. Let's say you have a document and it has a henpik, meaning it is certified by the court that the signatures have been certified. V'chazmu hadayon al henpik shalo, and the judges have signed this henpik. Uliachar zman, and then after some time, kashotziu hamal v'ligvos, the lender is coming and he's taking out the shtar in order to collect. Ir halo v'lomer mezuyif, with the lovis protesting and saying it's forged. Now one of the witnesses of the shtar comes, and testifies on his signature. And then also one of the judges comes and testifies on the signature, so they can join together in order to make this shtar kosher. That's what Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel. And so the Gemara continues, Amar Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama says, Kama Malya Hashmaita. How great is this teaching? Amar Rava says, "My mal yusa, what's so great about it? Ma'iduk hamasid sahada, lo kamasid dayana." And the item that the witness is testifying, that's not what the judge is testifying to. U'ma'iduk hamasid dayana, and that which the judge is testifying to, lo kamasid sahada, that's not what the witness is testifying to. How did these two people join together? They're really having different testimony. Rashi over here says, "Ma'iduk hamasid sahada, eidei hashtar me'idin al monish habishtar." The witness is on the shtar; they're testifying on the actual case itself, on the monish habishtar kirabbanan, following the rabbanan in our Mishnah. And the judges, they're just testifying that we saw that this was certified. So again, you don't have two witnesses on either issue because each one is testifying on something different. Ella rather, Kiyasa Rami Bar Yechezkel, when Rami Bar Yechezkel said, Omar, he said, Lo Titzi Sinhu, when Rami Bar Yechezkel came, he said as follows, Lo Titzi Sinhu, Lahani Kloli Dekayel Yehuda Achi Mishmei Shmuel. Don't listen to these rules that Yehuda, my brother, said in the name of Shmuel. Rashi over here says, Rav Yehuda Achua to Rami Bar Yechezkel Haver. Rav Yehuda happens to have been the brother of Rami Bar Yechezkel, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Beis.